Hey everyone, and welcome to your C++ tutorial on while loops. As you can see, I have Visual Studio code pulled up here. I'm going to delete our hello world instruction, and I'd just like to kind of get started with a quick definition on what a loop is in programming. So a loop is a sequence of instructions that runs until a specific condition is met. So a loop is just a sequence of instructions that will keep running over and over again in iteration by iteration until a specific condition is met. And the type of loop that we're going to be talking about in this tutorial is called a while loop. And I can show you what that looks like now. So a while loop begins with the while keyword. And as you can see, we have the condition for the while loop that goes here. So this condition takes the form of a Boolean variable or a Boolean expression. So this condition needs a Boolean value. As long as this condition evaluates to true, it'll keep going. The while loop will keep running. So if this condition evaluates to true, the instructions that are held between these two curly braces will run again. Once this instruction completes, or the instructions complete, and we go from this first curly brace to this last curly brace, the while loop will check the condition again. And if that condition is true, it will run this code again. At the end of the while loop, it'll check the condition before it runs another iteration of the while loop. So let's continue on with this example. I'm going to create an integer, and we will call this the end number. And so the end number will set equal to 50. And I'll create another integer, and we'll call this counter. And we'll set the counter equal to 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this in our while loop. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to increment the counter by 1 every iteration of this loop and print it until we get to the end number. So as long as the counter is less than or equal to the end number, we'll keep executing the loop. So how I write that as a condition will say, while our counter is less than or equal to our end number, we'll execute this while loop. And so inside of the while loop, I will do a stdcout our counter. And I'm going to actually print out counter, and then we'll increment the counter. And so in C++, we can increment a counter by doing this. This plus operator will add 1 onto our existing number. So this is an operator that we did not get to in our operators discussion, but it is a valid operator in C++. In fact, C++ is named C++ because of this operator. That's kind of a joke of C++ is like C, but like a little bit better. So that's kind of where the name comes from. It comes from this operator here. So when we finally finish our operation, I'd like to print out end of loop, and then we will exit. Cool. So just to review what we're about to compile and then run, we have our end number, which is 50. We have our counter, which is set to 0. As long as our counter is less than or equal to our end number, we're going to run these instructions over and over again. So we will print out the value of our counter, and then we will add 1 to it every time. And then we'll check our condition, and if it's still less than or equal to our end number, we're going to run this again and again and again and again until we reach 51. Once we reach 51, these instructions will not execute, and we'll exit our loop, and we'll proceed to our next instruction, which is to print out end of loop. Awesome. So let's compile our program. Compiled our program, and now let's run our executable. So as you can see, we have I should have started a new line with this, our cout operator print line here, but so it's all just kind of all crammed together, but you can see our counters at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then it goes all the way to 50, and then it ends the loop there. So I'm going to clear this. What I'll do now is, just to make it a little bit more clear, I'm going to put an end L in this at the end of this counter, and we'll compile it and run it again, just in case that last one wasn't clear enough. Awesome. So now this maybe is a little bit more clear of what's happening. We have our counter at 0, as you can see. We enter our while loop. Since 0 is less than the end number, which is 50, we print it out, which you can see here, and then we increment it, so we add 1 to it. The while loop ends, or the while loop, restarts and checks the condition. It's still less than 50 because the counter is now equal to 1, and so it executes. And it keeps executing all the way until it gets to 50, and then we increment it to 51. Once the while loop checks the condition, 51 is greater than our end number, so this is false now. Since that's false, we exit the while loop, and we go to the next instruction, which is to print out end of loop, which you can see here. Now, something that I'd like to mention with while loops is that it's not just, it's any, for the condition, it can be any Boolean expression or variable. It doesn't have to be numbers. It doesn't have to be this particular operator. You can, inside of your while loop, you can ask the user, hey, do you want to continue? And they can type in yes, and you can check, is, our answer equal to yes? It can be user input. It can be, a Boolean variable or something like that. There's a lot of ways, there's a lot of conditions you can use for a while loop. Another thing that I want to mention is that inside of this while loop scope, pretty much anything goes. Like, you can put if statements, you can put switch statements, you can put, function calls, class you can create new objects. So it's you can do a lot of stuff in here in the scope here. It's not just for arithmetic or just for printing stuff to the console. Awesome. So this is the basics of a while loop. I hope you learned a little bit. Thanks.